Welcome. Here's our quick tour of the AJAX automatic selection demo. It's kind of an interesting job here because we're actually going to be combining two things, our AJAX queries, which users can run by hand, that is by selecting each one of these fields, or if we want, we're going to populate it with a query string so that we actually literally run all the same commands that like a user would by hand, only we're going to populate it using a script. And so let's just kind of take a look at both of these and how they work. So the first here is we have our traditional AJAX form. So both of these guys down below are actually empty. This guy's actually being populated by a database query. And by the way, this is actually running off the FB demo table, which you have by default when you install RackForms. It may not have data in there, but you can certainly add some using your favorite database program or creating a form that adds some data. But basically, we're just going to be talking to this name, age, and email column. So we're just kind of be looking at names, finding ages, and then displaying all the emails for a particular age. So nothing really special going on here. But in the end, then we use a database query to pull up those names. I'm going to select one. The first AJAX query runs for age, and we have an age that we can select. And again, you'll notice this is blank, but as soon as I select an age, a second AJAX query will run, which will populate all the emails that have that particular age. Now, the real key to this job is that we want to do that automatically, right? I want to run all those AJAX queries and actually populate it so that if the user came from something like a form email or some kind of other system where maybe they selected like a package for purchase, they don't have to refill out these fields. And so all I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy this query string out, and let me just kind of reset the form. Again, you'll notice everything's blank here. And when I populate in this query string and run it, you'll see here that it has run all of our AJAX queries. It's not just populated the fields, it's actually run the AJAX queries and automatically selected the proper values based on our query string right here. So how does this actually work then? Well, it does bear quick explanation then that this is, again, a traditional AJAX form. And we have some other videos and demo jobs that show that, but the basic idea is this. I have my first field, which is called name, and it's being populated by a data source query. So I'm saying dynamic query equals yes, and then I'm running a database query to select the name from the FB demo database. So I'm basically going to get these values back right here. Then we have an AJAX query that's actually watching the name field. That's what this name means right here, is we're basically saying when I select a name, I want to perform an AJAX query. Similarly, we have a second one right here that's watching the age field. And again, the reason here is that when I select an age, I want to run an AJAX query. So name then is going to basically looking at a field, and it's actually going to be watching the name field for on-change events. Now the query that runs when I select a name is we're going to select the ages from the demo table where our name equals some value. So in other words, what name did I select? Go ahead and select the age that matches that name. Then we're going to bind the age field with the result of that query. So again, we have videos that talk about this in more detail. I want to go too much over it here, but it's usually a three-step process. The first is we're going to watch a field, in this case name. Then we have a query that's going to run, and in this case we're selecting the age from the demo table where our name is going to equal whatever we selected here. And then finally, to actually populate a field, we're going to bind the age field in this case with the age value. Okay, so that's the first AJAX query. Then, as we can see in our form right here, when I select a name, if I select an age now, it's going to populate this field. And that actually happens from this guy right here. So now we're watching the age field. And then the age field, right here as we're watching, is also going to be watching for on-change events. The on-change event, when it happens, is going to call this query right here, which is to select the email from the FB demo table where the age is equal to the value that I select. Then finally, we're going to bind the email field with the values from the email query. And again, when this all works together, it does a little something like this. So I select different values, and I have my dropdowns populate dynamically. Now, here's the key to this. In each one of these steps, we actually have a block of code available to us called code to run after query. And this is so important because what actually happens here is code to run after query is literally the code that runs after our AJAX call fires. And so in this particular case, if I select a new age right here, or if I select a name, this field is going to call process age. So this is where the magic of our automatic population actually happens. So what basically happens is process age is a function that I've defined up in the JavaScript code block of my page. And process age is basically going to do this. It's going to look at a variable that we defined when we load the page called age, who gets its value from a token that we populate in RackForms. So G simply means, is there a get variable name? If there is, that's what name is going to be equal to. Similarly, if there's a get variable name age, then age as a JavaScript variable is going to be equal to get age, and so on and so forth for email. The key to this is if age is not equal to a blank string, that is, we've provided a query string item called age and given it a value, then what we're going to do is we're going to say age's val is equal to that value from the query string. So this field is going to get a value, right? And this value should be a valid value from the actual AJAX query that runs here. So obviously there's a little bit of foreknowledge that we'd have to know that these are the proper values for this particular package that we're selecting. Then, and this is very important, we're going to issue a trigger statement. So this is just jQuery to basically say, trigger a change event on this guy. And the reason why we have to trigger a change event is because this guy right here, if we look at our field that's watching the age field, is looking for on-change events. And when it sees an on-change event, then it's, going to run its AJAX query. And that's basically how it works. Finally, we do have a process email function that runs after the AJAX query. And what this is doing is this is just simply selecting the proper value from the email query. So in other words, these three values are what the end result of selecting these values would be in the AJAX query. And when I select the email value, I know that if I select a particular name and age, and in this case, Matthew Gerdinick and age 38, I know that the email available will be mgerdinick@aol.com. So Matthew Gerdinick, age 38, the email will be mgerdinick@aol.com. And so we're just simply going to select that right here. We don't need to call another AJAX query. Nothing special needs to happen. We're just simply going to say, go ahead and run that query. And then, yeah, as we can see here, when we actually run this, then it performs exactly as we'd expect. We run a bunch of basically code that piggybacks off of each other to run the proper values right here. And so that's basically how it works. Of course, if you have any specific questions about this job or anything else, please let us know at info@rackforms.com, and thanks for watching.